Last Thursday's announcement in relation to the timing of the voice and the words from the PM was a significant moment for this country. Australia now heads towards a referendum sometime, we're told, between October and December, which he's selling as a pathway to reconciliation, a way to help Indigenous Australians. Instead, as it stands, it will do the opposite, inserting race and politics and division, the very heart of our Constitution. As former Prime Minister Tony Abbott wrote today in The Australian, the reality is that the voice in its current form will be another layer of bureaucracy, a form of co-governance, he says, where the representatives of 4% of the country will have a constitutionally guaranteed special say over the governance of everyone. Now, this is not modest change. I'm pleased to say, joining me now is Tony Abbott. Tony, welcome. I wanted to get you on and talk about the voice because I know you feel very deeply about issues of Aboriginal dysfunction and disadvantage, and I know you have long supported reconciliation. But this is not reconciliation, you argue. Tell us why.
Well, Peter, I'm all in favour of recognition and reconciliation, but this is so much more than recognition. This is the biggest change to our Constitution that we've ever been asked to make, and this would be a massive change to the way our country is governed. I think it's wrong in principle. I'm sure it would be disastrous in practice, and my fear is that in his haste to do this in a highly partisan way, the Prime Minister is unwittingly setting us up for a lose-lose situation as a nation. If this voice gets up, we will be in a diabolical situation, divided by race. If this voice doesn't get up, well, there'll be a lot of embittered Indigenous people, and the cause of reconciliation will be badly set back. Now, I hope even at the 11th hour, it might be possible for the Prime Minister to think again. Surely, the business of constitution making, the business of constitution changing should be a much more bipartisan thing than we've so far seen from the Prime Minister. Even today, he was out there essentially bad-mouthing Peter Dutton and accusing him of not showing sufficient interest in this and not showing sufficient respect for Aboriginal people. And that is the wrong way to go about doing something like this.
I played a little bit earlier in the show comments he made in a Q&A session with journalists after the announcement about something else, but he got a question about the voice. And it was put to him by a journalist. If the voice was in play right now, Prime Minister, would you have had to agree this Labor Green Deal on a safeguard mechanism, emissions reduction? Would that have to have been run past the voice? And he pushed back pretty hard. He tried to make fun of the journalist. He said, look, the voice is not about defence. The voice is not about the environment. The voice is not about foreign affairs. But if the voice is in the Constitution and it affects and relates to any laws that relate to Aboriginal people, well, it's about all those things, surely.
Yep, it's about everything relating to Indigenous people, and that is potentially everything that the voice chooses to have an interest in. And if the government doesn't consult the voice, if the government doesn't adequately heed the voice, if the government doesn't adequately resource the voice, well, it's off to the High Court, it's lawyers at 7 paces, and the impact on the way we are governed will be absolutely dramatic.
All right, let's go to New South Wales on the weekend, your home state, of course. Your reflections on the loss. What drove the Libs out of power?
Peter, Dom Perrottet is a good guy, and the coalition government in New South Wales has done a lot of good things, particularly the massive infrastructure projects that got up with, I have to say, a fair bit of federal support as well. But I think if you want to win an election, you've got to create a contest. And I don't think that the Liberal Party in New South Wales has done enough to create a contest. And if we look at a whole lot of recent election results right around the country, I think there's a pretty clear lesson. It's the 4 L's lesson, Labor, Light, Liberals lose. And the Liberal Party has got to stand for something.
Labor.
And it's got to take its members seriously.
What did you make of a lot of referencing of Matt Keane today decided not to run for the Liberal leadership? Comments from Michael Photius. People will remember Michael Photius as a once New South Wales Liberal minister. Of course, you famously said to Michael Photius and others that you can be a Liberal Party power broker or you can be a lobbyist, but you can't be both. What's the issue at the heart of the New South Wales Liberal Party and democratic pre-selections, rights for members vis-a-vis this factional bastardry?
You might remember, Peter, that back in 2017, I think it was, the Liberal Party had a People's Convention out at Rosehill Racecourse and overwhelmingly endorsed the idea of democratic pre-selections. Well, the factional warlords who have run the New South Wales division for years have since then manipulated the rules to try to deny Liberal Party members their democratic decision-making over who should be candidates. Now, if you treat the members so badly, you can hardly complain if they go on strike. And this is why whatever happens in the future, as well as standing for something in policy, the Liberal Party has got to take its members seriously. Otherwise, the Liberal Party will sooner or later face an existential crisis.
I want to get your take on Moira Deeming. I haven't met her. I know you haven't met her either. She was suspended for 9 months today. The expulsion motion failed. I exclusively took my viewers through her speech. She gave it to me today, that she gave to the party room. The speech, I have to say, I think saved her, won her a lot of support in the room. She says in the speech that she was raped as a 4-year-old. That is why she wants to stand up for women and girls. It's why she is so strong on this issue. She also said she was raised by a Holocaust survivor, her uncle, who fled a concentration camp. So she doesn't take too kindly at all to being labelled as a Nazi. Why on earth has the Liberal Party hit this own goal?
Look, she has done absolutely nothing. She said absolutely nothing that should be undoable and unsayable by Liberals. She hasn't done anything to deserve even suspension from the party room, let alone expulsion. And if it's impossible for a Liberal to defend women's rights to their own safe spaces and to fair sport, well, at least in Victoria, the Liberal Party is really in a lot more trouble than I thought.
I'm out of time. I could talk to you all night. I'm sure my viewers would like me to do that, but I'm going to leave it there. Tony Abbott, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Peter.